No, Trump probably has a great hog. It's going to be we're going to see it. We're going to be like, God damn it.
God, no.
It's going to be 8 inches and thick. And we're just going to be like,
Jesus Christ.
That is the legal analysis that people come here for.
I was excited to have James back.
James has taken judicial notice.
We live in the worst possible world.
You're going to be in a block quote and a complaint that's like Mike Dicta with today's date, right, and it's going to say host, and then Charles is going to flip out. Host James is going to say, and it's going to say 8 inches and thick. So people were speculating.
Right, I'm going to have to file an intervention just to have that paragraph stricken. You don't even have to strike the whole paragraph, Your Honor. Just strike the word host.
No, we live in the worst of all possible worlds. We can all agree that. Yep. And bad things happen to good people and good things happen to bad people. And therefore, Trump has got a beautiful penis. That's it. QED. That's my proof.
I don't believe this. I get rid of those 2 evil maniacs who try to ruin my show. And I get 2 evil guests who are trying to ruin my show.
Fair. Just who came up with the stupid idea of giving Space Ghost a talk show in the first place?
How they gave his own show to Tad Ghostal. Any given second he could go mad postal. Stay waving that power band space cannon and had the nerve to jump.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 14 of Mike Dicta, America's best named legal podcast. I am your host, Charles Starr, back with another all-star panel, including the Hell Dude. Welcome back, Tarik.
You want me to say it?
You gotta say it.
I'm the Hell Dude.
There he is. It's 2 in a row. Say hello again to Andy.
Hey, everybody.
Andy is on Xanax. Everyone, welcome back to the podcast. It's been a couple of weeks. Say hi to James.
Hey, everybody.
And last but not least, it's been a while, but she's back. Everyone say hello to Robyn.
Hi, everybody.
There we go. We have a lot to do, and whenever we have a lot to do, it also means we have to do Michael Cohen. And so once again, we start with Michael Cohen. You always think that maybe there's nothing to update, but literally while the episode 13 was in production, and in the very early stages of production, of course, that's when Judge Kimball Wood appointed the special master. They were fighting about that the last time we spoke in episode 13, but she did appoint a special master to review the privileged documents seized by the U.S. attorney. And they chose, this was a weird kerfuffle on Twitter. They chose Barbara Jones, retired Southern District of New York judge, and current partner at Bracewell LLP, formerly Bracewell and Giuliani. And so everyone got really mad that someone with a sort of connection that someone could make to Rudy Giuliani was chosen as the special master.
But, I mean, to be clear, Giuliani's been out of this for at least as long as I've been paying attention to politics. He's completely
When did that start? I mean, don't put him on a tee, okay? Don't put him on a tee. He has been away from Bracewell for a few years. And actually, he didn't overlap with Barbara Jones at all.
Okay.
She started a few months after he left, which is part of why I thought the people who were drawing those conclusions, I think, were being a little silly about it. So, in just sort of, what's up, James?
So she was a federal judge.
Yes.
And then she stopped being a federal judge to be a partner in a law firm.
Well, she was a federal judge, and then she took senior status, and then she retired. And then once she retired, my guess is that her legal practice was a combination of rainmaking and doing arbitrations and stuff like that.
Special mastering.
My guess is she had more of a a really sort of cushy sinecure eminence grease role.
Maybe
at
mediated
Bracewell
some
and
cases.
Giuliani.
Maybe mediated some cases.
Yeah, and probably was just sort of a smart person in the room to sort of bounce things off of, you know. I mean,
so this is not like when John Roberts complained, Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, John Roberts complained like 2 years into taking the job. We get paid like shit. This is miserable work. Who wants to be a federal judge these days? This is not that. I went from making $1 million a year to having a lifetime appointment. This sucks.
I actually do know someone though who was like, you know, state judge, but he was asked to run and he wouldn't because he was like, I wouldn't make enough money. And I was just like,
no, I think that's true of a lot of people. Yeah. I just think that the federal bench where they can't get rid of you is like, look, if you want to be a millionaire, it's probably not a short-term solution, right. But it is also probably a long-term solution. But I mean, I think to me, the short answer was Barbara Jones was a Clinton appointee who served in the Southern District of New York, probably had an office within hollering distance of Judge Kimball Wood's office for a lot of that time. Right. They were, you know, they have two female judges who've served on the federal bench for decades together. They probably know each other incredibly well. And I don't think that Kimball Wood was giving her this to bury it on behalf of Donald Trump. I mean, Kimball Wood was a Clinton appointee too. I think she just was like, okay, here's someone with integrity that no one can reasonably object to, even if she got a soft landing at Giuliani's old firm in her judicial retirement.
Oh, and in fact, any connection to Giuliani, even no matter how tenuous, makes the Cohen side of the equation less likely to object, right? I mean, like, it'd be hard to claim that, you know, this was somehow, you know, fucking him over. And this is a person who sat for a lot of years in a very hot trial court and knows her stuff.
Yeah. And so I guess they updated the court, and they're supposed to have all of the government's production by May 11th. May 11th, the government will have everything that they seized organized in a digestible form for Judge Jones and her team to go through. Though there was one notable exception. The government said, we may not have his telephones. 16. They seized 16 phones.
Jesus.
Michael Cohen, which is what they call the honest man's number of phones.
Wait, like 16 landlines?
No. 16 cell phones, burners, etc.
Oh my God.
No, they didn't seize his phones like, you know, like literally ripping wires out of the wall.
That was the mental image that I had.
No.
Because it's funnier.
No, the funnier image is definitely that he just has a bag with 16 cell phones in it that he just rummages through and he's like, nah, take this one.
Right, every time it rings, he sets them all to the same default tone, and so he doesn't know which one to pick up.
This is literally a scene in Breaking Bad with Saul Goodman, where he opens up the drawer and there's 30 cell phones in there, and he gives them.
He got that idea from Breaking Bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing.
He's watching Better Call Saul and taking notes.
He got his scams from The Sopranos. He got his ops from Breaking Bad.
He really does have his handle on prestige television, at least.
That's true. The next move is to blow up the Southern District of New York courthouse with Dragon's Fire. Oh, sorry. Game of Thrones spoilers. Spoilers. I'm sorry. Excuse me.
And so then, just when we thought Michael Cohen had done it all, parachuting in from out of nowhere...
Absolutely incredible.
Comes the aforementioned former mayor of New York, Rudolph Giuliani, to clarify that everything we had previously heard from Donald Trump was not true. On behalf of my client, I just want to make clear he was lying before, or possibly he's lying now.
I mean... One of those options is probably correct.
Nope. He is lying both times. is the likely answer. And so he says, and so once again, it's one of these things where they're trying to thread this incredibly delicate line, which I think we talked about when we first talked about Cohen 60 years ago. We said that, like, when Michael Cohen was saying this, I did this, but he didn't know. And he's like really trying to thread this needle about it's not like, so he's not violating the New York bar ethics rules, and he's also not violating the election law rules. And so he's trying to do all of these things at the same time. And so everything he says it like kind of has weird ambiguities. And from what I could tell, the current Donald Trump position is that Michael Cohen paid off Stormy Daniels. He did it just to save the president from personal embarrassment, having nothing to do with the upcoming election, even though they wanted to get it done on an expedited way so that she would be locked down in an NDA before the election.
Imagine that level of
and
loyalty.
He paid, wait. And he paid her back. I mean, he paid him back. Trump paid Cohen back. Without knowing what the money was for, nice. But only knowing generally that Cohen had cleaned up some mess of some kind. And so he needed to be paid back. And he did it through a series of retainer-style payments that made no reference to what the money is for. That is, the current position is he did it out of the goodness of his heart like a good soldier does, and Trump just paid him back because that's what a good fixer's client does. And therefore it violated no laws except for common sense and any morality.
Or plausibility.
Yes.
Imagine being that loyal to any human being.
No, but it's more like I know what his job is. His job is to get rid of things. He's too dumb to rip me off. So if he's saying he spent $130,000, then I'll just give it to him.
And my regular course of business is such that he could easily have spent $130,000 cleaning up some mess of mine. I don't know. It happens all the time.
And so now, if you were wondering where Cohen gets the walking around money, he has been buying Manhattan property in all cash transactions.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
And then within just 2 or 3 years has been flipping them at triple and quadruple premiums.
Absolutely.
Also in all cash transactions.
There you go.
Amazing.
And
fuck yeah.
And that's
legal as fuck, I'm sure.
I don't want to give a specific legal conclusion that this is obviously money laundering. But I do want to make the casual observation that it seems like money.
Well, but if you consider the guy was doing staged accidents.
Yes.
Right. Oh,
for
that
insurance
is yes. I almost thank you for not letting us miss that.
Earlier in his career.
Please, Tarik, explain this.
No, I mean this was some years back, but Rolling Stone, now that Michael Cohen has really taken over the public stage, Rolling Stone looked into his earlier career. And he did a lot of these staged accidents where, you'd basically have somebody ram somebody from behind and submit a phony insurance claim.
Oh, yeah.
And this was his whole practice area. Yeah, this was his practice area before.
Well, no. Robyn, I hope you weren't in one of these kinds where you were hit by someone who was like just trying to access your insurance.
Yeah.
Okay, this is not what Michael Cohen was doing.
Oh, no.
What Michael Cohen was doing was he was the attorney for the plaintiff, but the plaintiff and the defendant were in cahoots.
Yeah. Oh, gotcha.
So both sides were being paid, and not only were both sides being paid to get into an accident to just screw the insurance company as the third party, but I think they were also connected to a series of doctors, also Michael Cohen clients, who were then running up fake bills for the plaintiff's treatment.
Gotcha.
Guys, I actually love him. He sounds awesome.
I mean, it's a pretty good grift.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with this.
So Michael Cohen never got in trouble for any of this because he just represented the plaintiffs, and I think in one case he represented some of the doctors who got indicted. But his role at the time, and who knows how it would be looked at with people seeing people putting all the dots, connecting all the dots. I don't know that they would necessarily see it the same way today, but I think at the time he was just, the attorney of record representing people in these disparate cases, and no one really put all of it together to put him in the center of it. So he is not officially in cahoots with anyone. He was just the attorney of record for all of these people who were in dubious litigation.
It could happen innocently. I'm sure.
Yes.
Isn't there another Cohen piece though? I thought there was another thing where he'd taken the fifth, but then suddenly he was making public comments on the very subject about which he had taken the privilege.
He did not make. Well, it depends on how we're going to define public here. It sounds like he was just hanging out with Donnie Deutsch.
Yes,
as one does.
He took the fifth. And then Trump said something, and I don't remember what exactly it was that Trump said. And then Michael Cohen told Donnie, or maybe Giuliani said something, and he denied whatever one of them said to Donnie Deutsch, who then went out and repeated it. And so, yeah, that also is a very interesting way of taking the Fifth Amendment.
For the listeners, if you take a privilege on something, they can't. If you take a privilege on something like attorney-client or the Fifth Amendment privilege or something, it's off the table. But if you start making public statements, or if you do answer a question about this, they're allowed to ask you about the implications of what you just said within that limited context, and then they're allowed to ask you about the implications of what you say in response to those questions, and they can pull that thread as far as it goes. And yeah, you open the door.
Right. Though I think his answer on that will ultimately be that he was just really vague. Like, all he did was Giuliani said something, and he was just like, that's bullshit. But he didn't explain how or whatever. So I think his answer, and I don't know that it's really sufficient. That's bullshit is itself a statement.
What did you mean when you said it was bullshit?
Yep. And so he can't stop himself. And so that does anyone have what did we miss? Is there anything else in the Cohen update?
Well, I mean, just the fact that Rudy coming in at the last minute and saying that this was all tied back to Trump, that Trump both knew about it, paid it back. At one point he said, we couldn't have this coming out right at the election time, obviously.
Can you imagine October 15th?
Just went on Hannity, of all people, another Michael Cohen client.
Another Michael Cohen client.
And just completely implicated Trump in the entire thing after all of those machinations to keep him out. Which to me is just, he's either way smarter than me or as dumb as I think he is. And I'm just trying to figure out which one it is.
And I mean, it's really funny because you figure if you get him talking long enough, he will eventually say, look, Sean, we could have had President Clinton.
That's basically what he said. He said this was coming out. We couldn't have this coming out around the election. I mean, it was.
Could you imagine if that dropped on October 15th?
Exactly.
Well, great.
Exactly.
Good job, man. Any plausible deniability? Thanks for giving that away.
Yeah. If you were wondering if it was possibly not a campaign expenditure, Mr. Giuliani was there to clarify that. Oh, yes, it absolutely was in service of the campaign.
It's definitely that they're stupid because the Access Hollywood tape dropped October 1st, and that it put his numbers down, but it also was he didn't drop out or anything. And 2 weeks later, not only does this guy say that he's allowed to sexually assault women whenever he wants because he's famous, but also he paid off a porn star.
No, but he wouldn't have paid her off. Right?
Okay, yeah, or didn't pay her off. Also, he had sex with a porn star. Like, you've really damaged Trump's credibility. Oh man, his family values credentials are completely hosed now.
Well, I mean, yeah.
I'm not sure why they didn't just let it out so he could say, "Look, why do I have to grab women? Beautiful women are chasing me." Like,
they
for
talked
example,
to me on the
Stephanie Clifford. But yeah, all I know is, and this is, I'm not a crisis PR guy. Okay, I don't know these things for sure, but as a rule of thumb, a television appearance did not go well if you have to release a clarifying statement the next day.
No.
That I meant the opposite of what I said.
Well, but didn't Trump? It wasn't Trump's statement that it's his first day.
He'll figure it out.
Literally, it's his first day.
He's still figuring out how we lie. It's not that way. Our second move is a case that came out last week, I guess. The case has been around forever because it's been around. I think it was filed in 2012, but a number of victims of 9/11 have sued Saudi Arabia and Iran. Among others, there are a lot of these cases, but they're all consolidated.
Yeah, it's a big snowball.
It's all consolidated through the multi-district litigation panel in front of Judge George Daniels in the Southern District of New York, and the recent case was a default judgment against Iran, who literally has not responded at all. Right? I guess they met the requirements of service, but then Iran just threw the complaint in the garbage, and they have never responded to it at all. And so George Daniels, in accordance with JASTA, the Justice Against Sponsors of Terrorism Act, has held them liable for their connections to 9/11. And has awarded what I think amounts to over $7 billion in damages to the various family members of the victims of 9/11.
Cantor Fitzgerald Trader families.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, as you said, this is a consolidated bunch of suits.
Yeah,
and Iran is in here in part because Saudi Arabia impleted them. Saudi Arabia fought. Saudi Arabia fought against JASTA quite heavily. Invested a lot of money trying to beat it.
Yeah, they fucked that up.
And among the things that they did as part of this suit was plead in Iran, I think, and say, "Hey, well, actually, wasn't us. It was those guys." So I think that's how they're in here.
There's so much here that we should probably back up a little for some of the framework. The first is the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act, which mostly prevents anyone from suing other countries in United States courts, right? That's the big statute that makes it generally not illegal is the wrong word, but non-justiciable to sue a foreign country in U.S. courts.
As a matter of self-interest, right? I mean, we don't want to be defending these sorts of suits in other foreign jurisdictions against us for all of our war crimes.
So there definitely is a comedy concern about equal treatment, but there's also other concerns, diplomatic issues, and whatever suits they do have, they want funneled at least to federal court. But they want to waive jurisdiction on almost everything.
So the main reason you can get around the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act is if the country is acting in a commercial capacity in the United States, you can sue them like any other counterparty in a transaction. You can sue them for personal injury occurring in the United States. Like if a diplomatic vehicle, the Canadian ambassador runs you down on Fifth Avenue, that personal injury suit is still viable. And then the other one, and this is before JASTA, the other big one is there was an exception specifically for countries designated as state sponsors of terrorism who committed torture or similar war crimes, even overseas, right? That has always been an exception to the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act, or it has at least long been an exception to the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act. And what JASTA did was, I guess, and specifically because of this suit, Saudi Arabia essentially said, we're not designated as a state sponsor of terrorism, so you can't actually sue us for this. And so Congress got together and passed JASTA, which essentially removes the State Department from the equation. Because now you don't have to be officially designated a state sponsor of terrorism as long as you meet the statutory requirements of, a terrorist act. They can still go after you. So, of course, Obama vetoed it because the executive branch always kind of wants that prerogative. And this was literally the only veto override in Obama's 2 terms. Was Congress was like, no, we mean it. We want this suit to be viable. And so they overrode the veto and changed the rules about which foreign governments could be sued for terrorism-related
Well, and the
acts.
biggest difference for that, it seemed to be that they basically were carving out a space for countries like Saudi Arabia that have been, known to create separate entities in order to funnel money through. So basically the entire thing was, it doesn't have to be a country's military or specific actors in an official capacity. If you're getting shadow money that goes to terrorist organizations and they carry out an attack, they're liable. You're going to be liable for the money you're giving.
Right. They added agents.
Yeah.
They added agents to just the agencies of.
Yeah.
It expanded it that way too.
So this is JASTA is actually part of a long program to widen the state-sponsored terrorism exception to Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act. In 2002, there was this Terrorism Risk Insurance Act, which opened up all of these blocked assets. So there were all of these suits in the 80s, like the ones that Robyn brought up about Beirut and stuff. And so there were suits against Cuba by Cuban nationals who came here and had their slave plantations seized from them, and they were really sad about that. And suits against Iran. And so, but they couldn't get anything, because the thing is, when a country is on the state sponsors of terrorism designated list from the Secretary of State, they don't have any assets in the United States, or if they do, they are under a lot of sanctions, and specifically those assets are blocked. Mm-hmm. And so they can't be attached by any judgment that by some rando plaintiff. Now, the Terrorism Risk Insurance Act in 2002 opened all that up and said, doesn't matter. If those assets are blocked, great, come and get them. And then in 2008, they revamped the entire state-sponsored terrorism exception to the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act, and it's all part of a general program here, of which JASTA is kind of the last step of just removing the executive's waiver authority over any of this, so that way, the president can't just get in the way of any of this, and just allowing victims of terrorist acts to sue places.
Yeah. And there's been this has come up at the Supreme Court a few times. I mean, in 2012, like I said, Saudi Arabia challenged JASTA, and they basically, the main claim was this is essentially, they said this is essentially a bill of attainder. You passed this law just to change the rule of decision in our case while our case was pending. Because I think it was originally dismissed on the grounds that Saudi Arabia was not a state sponsor of terrorism. And while it was pending in the Second Circuit, they just changed the law. And so they could be sued. And so they were just like, you can't do that. And what the Supreme Court said was, while it's fairly clear that Congress changed the rule of decision here in order to influence your case, they didn't do it specifically and only for your case. This is the going forward rule for all countries similarly situated, and Congress is allowed to do that. And if it's retroactive and it happens to affect pending cases, tough shit to you as a defendant, but that's within Congress's authority. And the only two dissenters on that was a weird pair. It was Roberts and Sotomayor.
I thought the dissent was actually really good because it does kind of bring this whole point around not only the problem with, clearly this is kind of an exceptional circumstance because it is a terrorist act or whatever, but they raised a really good point about, shifting the goalposts to what becomes, and essentially eliminating all of the barriers so that Congress can't kind of come in and change specific cases. Because one of the things that they did bring up was that these cases were specifically identified in the law. Like the consolidation seemed to be, they kept saying it was referred to by docket number in the actual section.
Yeah, though the majority's response to that was, even when those cases end, though, this will remain the law. And so, it ended up just being a fight about, Congress's prerogative, and they found that they just had broadly the authority to do this, and they cited other similar cases where Congress had done it before. And they said basically the only time we didn't let them do it is when they were specifically like, change the answer on this one. And they picked like a specific case and just kind of overruled it and tried to retroactively change a final judgment that had been entered in a case.
Yeah.
And they're like, that's a little different than this, where they're just changing the entire sort of jurisdictional schema of the interaction between federal courts and foreign sovereigns.
Yeah, like I just reading through it, I think in some ways it does seem like an odd pairing, but on the other hand, to me it kind of made sense because this is kind of the one weird overlap that they would have about overly broad congressional rights to interfere in the judicial process.
Yeah, I don't know that I would have expected only those two on that narrow ground, which is why it's just sort of surprising to me. The other Supreme Court case that, and now I realized that I forgot to write down the name, but in one of the earlier cases, this may have been the Marine Barracks case, but I think it was post JASTA also. But someone had previously won very similarly a default judgment of like $175 million against Iran, and Iran didn't respond. They don't really have any assets to seize. But what they did have is there are these Iranian antiquities on loan from government to a museum in Chicago. And so they sued in federal court in Illinois to try to seize these like Mesopotamian tablets of the property of the Iranian government.
Yeah, once you're holding a default judgment for an enormous amount of money, everybody's going to get real creative with their theories.
Yeah.
There's been a bunch of stuff like this where like a charity was nationalized by Cuba well after the lawsuit, and that charity at the time had some assets within the United States. And so like judgment holders, people who had a default judgment where they hadn't presented any evidence or anything, it was just Cuba hadn't shown up because they don't accept jurisdiction over their revolution from a federal district court. They have this default judgment, and then they go they try to seize this charity's assets because they just happen to still be in the United States. And there are a number of different cases like that. I won't list them all, but there are a lot of places where they'll...
How did that go?
Not great.
So they didn't let them seize the
I don't
charity's
think
assets?
that one went well, if I remember correctly.
Because they also did not allow them to seize the tablets from the museum.
This is more of a policy point about this, but one of the things that can't come up, my friend wrote a note about this, and I'm just putting a plug in for his point, which I think is generally correct, which is that when plaintiffs are able to get default judgments, you may end up because and the reason they're able to get default judgments is because, of course, the other side doesn't show up to court because Iran doesn't accept the jurisdiction of the United States over its activities, or Cuba. They also don't. Other quote state sponsors of terrorism. You can get these massive judgments just based on whatever you plead in your complaint.
Yep.
And then what can end up happening is that in the future, in the event that somehow something excellent were to happen and we were to try to normalize economic relationships with these countries, you can imagine how creative the theories would get from the judgment holders then when assets actually start to flow between the two countries.
Yep.
And these would be significant headwinds when you're talking about judgments of billions.
Yeah. I mean, I think, honestly, it would be the sort of thing that if we were ever normalizing diplomatic relations with any of those countries, it would probably require like all of those default judgments to be wiped out by some kind of statute just to prevent anyone from having to.
And then you have
them.
a takings claim, but yes.
Yeah.
It's so American of us to be like, yeah, we're going to sue other countries and hold them tortiously liable for war crimes. If
the Cuba one really gets me.
If literally if Iraq did that to us, could you imagine the outrage?
We're returning those tablets, though. It's
every
fine.
business owner in Baghdad got together and was like, hey, we had like malls here.
Yeah, they just posted earlier about how they're finally fixing the express tunnels that connected different parts of a major hospital that apparently we blew up for some reason.
Because why not?
Yeah, because why not? And they're fixing those now. It's 2018. We invaded 15 years ago in March. So it's fine. Everything in Iraq is fine. What would they have to sue us over? We fixed it.
It's fine.
I just think we can't let the segment go without saying death to America. All hail the
Why do you be like that, dude?
I'm just listen, they say it for all kinds of things. It's not literal. It's not a literal death to America. It's
live in a place that people don't want to bomb.
That's
no,
not
there
true.
are a lot of people. Oh, there are a lot of people.
Hang on a second. Wait a minute.
What a great way to end a segment on 9/11.
Yeah. Just a mulligan. Just a mulligan. Though I think she may have been making a white.
I was.
What you gonna do when you get out of jail? I'm gonna have some fun. What do you consider fun? Fun, natural fun.
All right, topic three. We have the red state multi-attorney general litigation led by Paxton in Texas
Great.
To block DACA. He wants an injunction from the district court, the Eastern District of Texas, I believe. He is suing to enjoin the Deferred Action on Childhood Arrivals Act entirely, which is kind of like a humidifier and a dehumidifier working against each other because all the blue state attorney generals or attorneys general have also sued in separate courts to stop Trump from ending DACA, which he has officially done, but the injunction has stopped him from.
Love to live in a functional democracy.
I just want to say, as like a native Texan, this is so embarrassing. This is just like
seems par for the course.
It's par for the course for the politics, but I know that like it doesn't have a ton of support on the ground from people because the DACA kids have all like gone to school with us and gone to college with us and now work in Texas making money and paying taxes. But anyways, that's my tax rant for the evening.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I will say this. I will say this for the Paxton and complaint to get an injunction against DACA is that it's not bad. It's certainly not bad in the forum where it was filed.
It's not short.
Because
No.
You mean in terms of the
It's
quality?
definitely not
Are you talking about the quality?
137 pages, right?
Well, just 75 of factual vermins and cause of action.
I think it's an excellent complaint as far as writing, as far as craft.
Yeah, no, it definitely.
It's really well put together.
this is not the usual bullshit that we make fun of. Like
they put their time in.
I think I want to leave this for Andy, since he said it before. But Andy, what is half of this complaint?
Yeah, like half the complaint is block quotes of Obama on various interviews and talk shows and speeches, saying, "Listen, I can't do this on my own. I cannot do this on my own. I'm going to need a legislation behind me to help me do this, and I need you to. I don't have the power to do this on my own." And then they go on to point out how he nefariously did it all on his own.
Yeah, I mean, the earlier stage of this litigation is like, first, Obama issued DACA, right, which allowed children brought to the United States by their parents illegally, but who had lived their whole lives here, basically. It allowed them to stay in the United States and made them, it took them off the deportation priority list, and it gave them other benefits. And then when Congress didn't act, Obama kind of was like, well, I mean, fuck it. If I'm going to do it on my own, I'm just going to do it. And he then expanded those rights in a second DACA executive order. And he also issued DAPA, which was like the P stood for parents. And so it's like, if this was like, if a parent of an American born citizen would then be a low deportation priority, right? This was literally like the Republican freak out about anchor babies made flesh.
Yeah.
Was Obama issuing an executive order saying that any alien parents of American citizens could then stay. And an earlier round of this litigation enjoined both of those things, right? Though both of those executive orders got knocked out on a combination, I think, of the Administrative Procedure Act and the Take Care Clause. And so a district court judge in Texas was like, nope, on all of this. And at the time, Texas then withdrew their own suit against DACA on the grounds that they just expected it to go away anyway. But then when Trump tried to withdraw DACA and courts all over the country started enjoining Trump from getting rid of DACA, the Paxton and the other
the states you would expect.
red state attorneys general.
All the states you would expect, really.
Yep. All of them then turned around and said, no, we're going to, if we have to, I guess we have to. So they just sued to get rid of it. And like Andy said, a lot of the complaint is, it's one, Obama saying over and over again that it had to be done by statute and not executive.
No, even better. It's so Obama too, because this isn't how democracy works.
Yeah.
This isn't how our system works.
Right.
This isn't how democracy works, but I'm doing it. It's like, come on, guy.
Yeah. And then the other thing was one of the ways that the blue state attorneys general would get injunctions against Trump getting rid of DACA.
Trump quotes.
Is that they would say that his executive order violated the Administrative Procedures Act. And so what Paxson says in this suit is, well, if it's a violation of the Administrative Procedures Act to get rid of DACA, then it was a violation of the Administrative Procedures Act to issue DACA in the first place. And so they're just using the blue state arguments against them. Not that the judges in those cases didn't address that argument, but there's probably a much more receptive audience in the Eastern District of Texas than there was in San Francisco or in Brooklyn.
I also think they're using some of the craft against them, like the fact that the first time I read one of these long slew of like block quotes from Obama, I was annoyed with it. When I got to the second one, I was like, oh, you're kind of using the exact thing that all of the injunctions against, all the motions for injunction against Trump have done, which is quote him on social media and quote him. And I found that quite clever, actually. Even though I hate these people and I hope they die, I was like, this is a really well written complaint.
They completely,
I mean, these are not bad.
No, they
attorneys.
completely inverted the motion for quiet part loud.
Exactly right.
And turned it on Obama.
Yeah.
Well, and the relief they ask for is, to the extent that any of this can really be considered reasonable, I think they did a really smart thing because they didn't actually ask for, like, all of DACA to be repealed. They were like, we're not even, if you guys want to do this, great, but we're not even going to talk about the people who already have deferred action. What we're wanting to enjoin is continued acceptance and processing of applications. And I thought that was really smart because
though it's not quite that. It's not quite that because one of the things that DACA does is you have to renew every 2 years. Right. And so what they say is, we're not asking you to round these people up now.
Right.
But we don't want you to issue any new applications, and you're going to enjoin them from renewing any current holders. And so they have time to get their affairs in order, but it will then die on the vine if you issue this injunction because the federal government can no longer renew it.
Right, but in terms of just how the complaint is structured, that's a much more facially reasonable complaint, I think.
Because they say several times, you have the authority to rescind all these authurizations, and there's a couple times where they remark on. Yeah, they remark on like maybe I think about 1,000 people have used DACA as part of like a step ladder of eventually becoming citizens. And when they mentioned that, I was like, oh God, they're going to ask those people's citizenships be revoked. And they don't. So, these people they don't want the blood in their hands. Yeah. They're not out and out fascists, but they just want everyone to lose it after 2 years and then
when
dot.
When I was litigating, we'd call this the appearance of reasonableness.
Right.
Yeah.
You
exactly.
ask for the draconian thing, but you act like, no, we're going to do it in a very reasonable way.
Right, and for the audience, grandfathering like this is a standard way to try to dampen the impact of the thing that you're doing. We're really only talking about forward-looking, although as Charles points out, there's some exceptions to that, but we're really only talking about doing this going forward. Anybody who's got it right now, we want to leave them alone. This is totally fine. But grandfathering is a very normal way to give the appearance of reasonableness.
Yeah, and I also don't think that they really. I don't think they could have articulated a plausible way to revoke the citizenships awarded. Like you said, it was sort of a stepladder, but they're just like, look, they're saying it's not a pathway to citizenship. And I think on the merits, it ends up not really being a pathway to citizenship, but they say some of these people used their presence here and various other factors to get this other specific immigration status. And then once they got that immigration status, they weren't really dreamers anymore. They were this new category. And once they were in that new category opened up possibilities for citizenship. And like you said, about 2,000 somewhere like 1,500 or something. 1,500 of the former dreamers have ascended to citizenship, even though in the sort of conservative way of thinking about it, if you entered illegally, there really shouldn't be a way for you to unring that bell without leaving the country first and then applying in the ordinary course and going to the back of the line.
One of the things, so I realize I said twice that I think the complaint is well written. I don't want to let him off the hook entirely because I think that section 4, I don't know if you guys remember this, but the part where they get into the humanitarian crisis.
Yeah, that was
real poorly substantiated. Very bad.
I have a great paragraph I want to pull out of that one, but keep going.
No, I'm just introducing. I mean, they're saying that essentially they're saying that like the United States created this kind of like attractive nuisance where by saying that like by making people think that we would let them in, it's created a huge wave of people trying to get into the country, and they use terms like international child smuggling to make it sound as if the problem is that these children are being endangered. But what really is happening is that parents are paying to have their kids brought over to them because with the hope that the kids will be able to stay.
They mention in particular little girls with Hello Kitty backpacks and the phone numbers of American relatives.
You know, DACA is the real Pizzagate.
Yes. That's absolutely what they're going for.
Yes.
It's just the mental image of this, like, sad little girl, and you're supposed to be all horrified that she's being trafficked, but you're realizing that it's like a bunch of scary dudes with guns at the border, like, being like, nah, you can't come here. You gotta go. Like, what? Okay. I just think it backfired.
And Texas says that this crisis, wave of immigration of like people trying to reunite their families or refugees, the crisis has imposed enormous law enforcement costs on plaintiff states. For example, the Texas Department of Public Safety estimated in 2014 that it spent $1.3 million a week on troopers and resources to deal with the immigration surge. In addition, former Governor Perry deployed 1,000 National Guards troops to the border at a cost of $38 million. So Texas is saying we spent $100 million patrolling the border with hanging out of the back of pickup trucks with shotguns. But you didn't have to fucking do that. There's already a Customs and Border Patrol. You're just tooling around the Rio Grande because you want to, because it makes your dick hard. That's not an actual cost.
Forcing us to spend millions of dollars on political stunts.
Yeah.
You are.
Look, there is no other circumstance under which the state of Texas would have paid cops overtime.
I mean,
like this is I think a policy that was lobbied for by the police unions.
Well, and these kids are victims too because they're being trafficked to their parents. They're being trafficked.
They may someday see a relative.
And we cannot allow that.
One of the things that makes us ultimately stink as a section is not just the implausibility of it or the way that they're trying to drum up good things and make them as bad things, but also that it's really difficult to tie these third-party actions, like people trying to cross the Rio Grande, as stemming from the DACA policy. I don't know that those really. I mean, I suppose it depends on the judge you get, but those might be allegations that I think don't stand plausibility. That the reason people are trying to come to America is because of DACA solely, and not, there was nobody trying to get, the Republicans have been freaking out about people wading through the Rio Grande for decades now.
Right. I mean, but that's typical. Like that is the standard Republican line on all normalization and amnesty is like they consider like amnesty the original sin of immigration policy, because if you ever do it, every foreign citizen in the world assumes you're going to do it again. And so, like,
what a tragedy that would be.
but that's the theory, is like once amnesty has been given, you essentially send out a signal that even though you say it's the last one, nobody believes you, because if you show empathy once, you'll probably show it twice.
I do want to say before we get off this section that we can't just let a Ken Paxton lawsuit go without mentioning that he, from basically the moment he was sworn in as Attorney General of Texas, has been facing criminal charges for securities fraud.
Yeah.
Because
the details on that would be great.
The details, I have the details on that pulled straight from wikipedia.org, but based in, so everything I'm saying is 100% true, and I'm protected from all defamation claims when I say that while he was a legislator, he picked up work for this company, And he went around and told his legal clients, his colleagues in the legislature, and his friends that this company, and it had some like hacky, obviously fake name like Sylvanergy or something. And he was like, these guys have bulk contracts to ship goods and they're very energy efficient. And he neglected to mention that he received a commission every time someone bought shares of the company. And that commission was in 100,000 free shares of the company, which he says he got purely as a gift, unconnected to the fact that he walked around and told literally every person with a pulse to buy shares of this company that eventually went under. And so he's saying that the shares he got were a gift, completely unrelated. He was not being compensated without disclosing that he was doing basically hawking these bullshit shares. And he has been facing charges for a year and a half, his full tenure. He got his trial moved and he got a new judge. Unfortunately, the old judge was a Republican and the new judge is a Democrat. So that's going to play into his story that it's all a political witch hunt, I'm sure. But also, it sounds like the guy is extremely guilty of
allegedly
securities fraud.
Guilty.
Allegedly
guilty.
We still subscribe to
Yes.
innocent until proven guilty here.
Allegedly, probably, almost certainly guilty.
Yes, it sounds like he allegedly is a huge securities fraudster. It sounds like that.
I also have one more thing I want to say about DACA before we get off it. I realize that we maybe have already gotten off, but I'm going to do it anyway, which is that you can find it in the complaint here in some of these Obama quotes, but this is like one of the big sort of thoughtless failures of the Obama administration in thinking that they could never lose again.
Yep.
He would say these things to people like, listen, you can come out of the dark. You don't have to be in hiding anymore. We got these DACA and DAPA programs. Just come out. Just put your name on this list. Nothing will ever backfire here. Well, it fucking did. And now they have lists and addresses of all these of tons of people who thought they were getting amnesty or deferred action, and they got the Gestapo.
And to compound it, all while saying this is not the way it works. This isn't the way we do things, and doing his whole fucking bullshit of equivocating on the actual legality of his actions as he was encouraging people to rely on.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Thanks, Obama.
100,000 cars have passed this house. The celebration starts with laughter. Can it be that we're not clean? The days of time.
Final act of Mike Dicta 14. It is time for Roy Moore. Roy Moore's second appearance on the pod.
I'm going to be your Mary
Moore.
Sue here. I have not read this complaint, so I'm just going to be the fresh face listening to what he's saying.
Roy Moore, just when you think he has slunk away in shame completely, he says, no, please, more shame. And
Let's keep this going.
He has sued all of the women who accused him of improper conduct.
Hell yeah.
He has sued a local, I guess he's a local, Richard Hagedorn is a local in Etowah County in Alabama who is, I guess, a Democrat and a political rabble-rouser, and also the brother of a Washington Post reporter, which is probably how the story got to the Washington Post in the first place. But he is suing all of them for ruining his good name in Alabama with a series of state law complaints. Notably, he does not sue any media entities. I think he did not. He did not sue any media entities. The two big ones would have been the Washington Post and AL.com.
Well, the actual malice standard would be really hard because, it would be impossible.
Yeah, and so I think it's a huge surprise, given past Roy Moore related legal
I see
work,
what you mean.
that he did not, in fact, try to overcome the actual malice standard.
How come this thing is so smart? What's this?
No, he also didn't sue anyone with deep pockets, right?
Well, and this is
Wonderful.
and I think Adam pointed this out at Alele Boulay. But the one reason is that because it's a shrewd litigation tactic to only go after the people who might not be able to fight back. The other reason is because the only purpose of this suit is to harass the women who spoke up against him. Why don't women report sexual assault? Because this shit happens.
Well, no, wait, James.
So,
I don't know if that's fair. I mean, he went out and hired a law firm called protectingmen.com. And I'm not sure that you can conclude that protectingmen.com would just want to harass women who bother men.
Good point.
Right. The answer is going to ask the court to take judicial notice of the URL of plaintiff's counsel.
One of the counts against him is, that he's filing is like obnoxiousness.
No, wantonness.
Wantonness.
There are two state law claims in Alabama that I will not look up.
I don't understand this complaint at all.
I was so confused by his claims. I'm like, you can't file suit for that.
Cause of action, negligence.
Well, I mean,
cause of action, wantonness. Cause of action, defamation. Cause of action,
which the negligence claim. Okay, negligence is like, all right, let me boil down a whole semester of tort law for you. Negligence is when you owe a duty to someone and then you breach that duty and then that causes them damages. And like the classic one is like, if you're on the road, you owe a duty to other drivers to not drive recklessly. Okay, so they're saying that they had a duty to not tell the media that they were sexually assaulted because they say it's false, but that's a defamation claim. That's a negligence claim. Are you an idiot? Do you know what negligence is?
No,
Did you
they
pass
said
torts?
But this is how he describes the duty. He's like, you have a duty to not defame me.
But that's already covered by
right.
I'm getting that. I'm getting
that's
that.
it.
But clearly she's just a bad
negligence
lawyer.
issue, right? No, because they're not media entities. So that the actual malice standard only prevents the press from publishing it. The source of defamatory articles can be sued, but not the paper for reporting them based on the say-so of the source. But in this case, negligence essentially repleads the defamation claim, which is why the negligence claim will get tossed
and
out.
the IIED,
because it's just the same.
The intentional
thing. They get infliction of emotional distress, both negligent and intentional. But the two big ones are wantonness. And
outrage. Outrage is the one I was thinking of.
Outrage is the other one.
And it doesn't.
Which outrage just seems to be
duplicative of defamation. It seems duplicative of defamation.
No, it's duplicative of IIED.
They're all the same thing.
So for intentional and infliction of emotional distress, this is my favorite tort of all time.
And it's a real tort.
It is a real tort. You can, honest to God, sue someone for inflicting emotional distress. But the distress has to be the actual legal standard of this is that upon hearing the conduct, the ordinary reasonable man would be moved to exclaim, "That's outrageous." That is the legal standard for this.
That's my new catchphrase.
And usually it has outrageous. To be, usually it's like, over an extended period of time, someone engages in like repeat horrifying harassment just to mess with you and create emotional distress.
I do have bad news. I've just Lexused the tort of outrage in Alabama, and it is a real tort.
Yeah, I assumed it was real. It's just hilarious.
So it is most commonly used for cases having to do with wrongful conduct in the context of family burials. So, for example, if your neighbor shows up to the funeral and starts fucking with your corpse in front of everybody, that's the tort of outrage. It's basically super IIED.
Super IIED.
And what is wantonness?
I have not looked that one up yet.
Wantonness just appears to be just like intentional rudeness. Wantonness seems to be I've been owned.
Yeah, and I think what these torts are is because the tort of intentional infliction of emotional distress got like it developed very slowly. There was sort of like an understanding that there was conduct that could become that was so outrageous as to be tortious. But I think that these other torts like wantonness and outrage kind of developed very slowly and haphazardly, and also in the 19th century. And then once the modern tort of intentional infliction of emotional distress was theorized, once it was discovered by legal scientists in a lab in Roswell, New Mexico, that it sort of subsumed these predecessor torts like outrage and wantonness. Like if someone messed with your father's corpse at a funeral, you would probably plead IIED. You might plead outrage in addition, but you're going to get the same kind of remedy either way. So
and I'm more familiar with IIED in the context of like, I've often seen it as a civil remedy against stalkers. So like it's a mechanism to collect for like if you can't, it's notoriously difficult to get criminal issues with stalkers to continue.
I generally associate it with cases where you have no case.
Yeah, I think that's more often where it's pled, but where it actually works, I think are maybe Robyn's right.
Yeah. Those are the times when I've seen it actually be upheld as like, okay, this behavior is objectively insane.
But yeah, anybody who gets pissed off and rage pleads IIED.
Yeah.
To be clear, this is this case is closer to Tarik's example.
Yeah, this case is outrageous. This case is a guy suing the women who had the audacity to talk about the things that he did to them.
Right. So let's talk about the actual factual pleadings here, because they're pretty funny. One of the things that they point out is that Hagedorn, the one whose brother is a Washington Post reporter, they point out that Hagedorn was married by Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
And it was a gay wedding.
She was the officiant at his wedding to his husband. And because Roy Moore is critical of Obergefell, the case that legalized gay marriage, that is proof right there. That is proof that he has a bone to pick with Roy Moore, and that was the heart of the conspiracy.
Can somebody who's connected to the internet just go to www.protectingmen.com? Quickly.
Oh, I'm on my way.
Protectingmen.com. This site has stepped out for a bit.
The site has been suspended.
Here's the site.
Wait, what just happened?
Son of a bitch.
All right, guys, let's register this.
Roy Moore's law firm's website has been removed from the internet.
Okay, who on this podcast right now? We're registering the site right now on the cast, and we are going to redirect it to the Mike Dicta Twitter account.
Wait, who is protecting men? Men
are left unprotected at this very moment. Thanks to Roy Moore.
I have never been so afraid. Okay, the other two things that I liked in his factual claims, liked in the sense of found very funny, he makes a big deal, and this was a huge deal when his crazy attorney, the one who got like a box top law degree the last time, that guy, he demanded a retraction from the Washington Post and AL.com, which they responded by laughing at him. But they always refer to 9 accusers, and he's like, look, bub, there are 3 accusers. and the difference between 9 and 3 is is a very central issue in his complaint.
I agree, they're different numbers.
Well, and did we talk about the shit posting?
Oh yeah, there's a couple of paragraphs where they talk about how Hagedorn posts "Happy New Year, Roy," because Roy had lost.
And they post on Facebook about like how much they hate Roy Moore, and that is part of his defamation claim is the things that these people are putting on Facebook and Twitter.
Right, but they're not defamatory. No, they're just right. Insulting.
They're just that's where the wantonness comes in, because they're very rude.
Yeah.
Well, I can't think of any possible reason these 9 or perhaps 3 women would have to hate Judge Roy Moore. I don't I can't think of anything. Right. So it's clear this is a pernicious pattern to defame an upstanding citizen who has only been banned from one mall.
I am curious, though. Buried in all of the bullshit, there was one kind of little nugget of something that might potentially be an actual thing.
Seems unlikely, but go on.
And he mentions the notes, the yearbook note that she forged.
No, they disagree on what it was. She does. I think it comes down to this. He very clearly wrote the note in her yearbook, but after the fact, she annotated it to be clear about who the person who wrote the inscription was. She just added the phrase DA, and it looks like he signed his name Roy Moore DA.
Right, no, and but that's the thing, that would be the only even remotest kernel of something where I could see.
But only if he didn't write the rest of the inscription.
And he claims he didn't. Right, that's that would be the only allegation that I think would even uphold on the face of it.
He claims that he had a legal assistant while he was a judge whose initials were DA, and that's who was
the law
these
clerk.
things.
He claims that the law clerk was signing his.
Oh, I blew right
past.
This is a judicial order. This is not the yearbook.
Yeah, this was an order, and he claims that the law clerk was signing the orders.
Oh,
yeah. As Roy Moore /DA, which would make sense, I suppose.
Is that a thing?
And a couple other things that I thought were very funny. Number one, he says one of the things that was defamatory in these articles was that they said that he didn't care about Charlottesville, right? People were like, he doesn't care about Charlottesville. He hasn't commented on it. And the accusation that I don't care about Charlottesville is defamatory. In fact, I issued a statement. And so I'm going to read you in full the Roy Moore statement on Charlottesville.
Hell yes.
He says, the violence and hatred behind the events in Charlottesville is unacceptable and must be stopped. These inexcusable acts will only cause more violence and division in our communities. Now is the time to turn to God and ask him to change the hearts and heal our land. My prayers go out to those innocent victims involved.
It sounds like he's saying the Nazis shouldn't kill people, they should just pray to win.
No, we should be praying for the Nazis to win.
He's real vague about who the victims are.
Right.
That's
definitely
right. Well, that's
the innocent victims here.
That's my point, Andy, is that it's super
the innocent victims who lost their jobs at the burger stand after being photographed.
I support the troops of every country. All both sides.
The troops that aren't even
he
troops.
Literally doesn't. He's non-specific about the events. He's non-specific about what's unacceptable. He's non-specific about the inexcusable acts. Like all of it is just said in the broadest sense, so that depending on who he's talking to, he could just be talking about Antifa.
In my opinion, I'm against the bad things, but what I like, the good stuff.
And we should pray for it.
I can't believe
we should pray for more good stuff.
There were many good people on both sides.
Both sides. I do love one of my favorite things. My dad was a big Rush Limbaugh listener growing up, which explains nothing about me. And so one of the things that they do in this complaint is they really torture some sentences so that they can use Democrat as a noun. So they can say the Democrat candidate Doug Jones and things like that, which is very classic Rushism of not saying Democratic. It's always the Democrat Party. Yep. It's just great. It's really a talk radio complaint, and I dig it. Good job. Good job protectingmen.com.
I'm sorry about your website.
And then I guess the last thing that I will point out about the complaint is that very early on, he mentions how long he had been in public service in Alabama and how often he had stood for election for various offices, some wins, some losses. And he says no suggestion of personal impropriety had ever been raised.
I just don't think that's true.
That's not true, because what happened is basically it was an open secret in Alabama Like, it wasn't news, but like everyone kind of knew, oh yeah, there's some weird shit with Roy Moore in Etowah County. And all it took was a national focused election for like New York Times reporters to actually come into a Senate race in Alabama, which would normally be a very boring thing to say like, hey, so that Roy Moore shit, did he fuck with kids?
Well, right. But I mean, you think about like a Harvey Weinstein. He made hundreds of movies. And nobody ever said anything, and all of a sudden now they say something. I don't know. Seems strange to me.
The Roy Moore stuff too is also kind of couched in this like weird religious component to the, there's this idea that like once you reach sexual maturity, like you're a woman regardless of what the law says, and therefore you're fair game, essentially. And like it's on the teenage girl to make sure that they're never around someone who might potentially think that they're like sexually available. So it's, there was a lot that went into this open secret thing, and a huge component of that is the fact that this was considered socially acceptable behavior within the community. And it's only just now starting to change. But
it also, I think, explains why the Washington Post would make a big deal of the story when he's running for Senate, in a way that the local papers might not. And I think the local papers would have been, much more afraid of retribution.
Yeah, definitely.
Than the Washington Post would have been. I mean, he was a powerful guy. He was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Alabama. Before that, he was the district attorney in Etowah County. And so he had just had a series of, powerful positions. And it's the sort of thing that it's not really that surprising that the first person to really break the story big is going to be an outsider. And then once the Washington Post ran it, then AL.com can come in and piggyback, once the seal has been broken, and then do a lot more local reporting to really blow the story up.
I feel bad for these defendants, these women in this complaint, because they're going to have to, just to tie it together with the earlier thing, if you don't show up when somebody sues you, then the court, will take jurisdiction over you and just issue a default judgment for whatever they want or to something reasonable. And so they are going to have to hire a lawyer to defend them against this moronic thing. And it probably is going to cost them some amount of money. And they're just, he's just not done torturing these people.
You can abuse the shit out of people by just suing them, even on a frivolous basis.
It's a great system. We love the law here.
It's fun.
So very important to note, men are not protected. That is the takeaway here, is that someone please protect them.
I tried to buy this website, but it's already taken. But you know what's not taken, and they're offering to me for $4,500? ProtectingWomen.com. Also not protected.
This is an abuse-free podcast.
Hell yeah!
I feel like I'm really being spoken over here, guys.
Yeah, take it up with the law firm that doesn't exist. There's a reason there's no Protecting Women, Robyn.
Maybe if you bought ProtectingWomen.com, you could hire an attorney to protect you in these situations.
Maybe I could. I don't know.
All right. Any closing thoughts from anyone?
It's absolutely good to report sexual assault when your abuser is about to take a very powerful position. Fuck that guy. Do it. I don't give a shit. It's awesome. It's great. Same thing happened to the Wyoming Secretary of State. It rules. He's not going to be governor. It's awesome. Please do it. It's not great to obviously be abused or assaulted, but it's a common thing to be like, I can't believe they're coming forward now. Absolutely come forward now.
And as a guy who doesn't have to face any of the consequences, I agree with James.
That's
Ladies, do what's going to be best for you in all situations.
Oh, yeah. That's really the best advice.
I was joking.
Oh, James just got out-woke.
Yeah, it's true.
James just got out-woke,
It's the second time in 3 weeks I've been out-woke by Robyn. And it's fine. Both times it's fine. Because you know what I do? I listen to women.
Don't listen to me. Give your money to me. Venmo me for my emotional labor.
At Batman's Robyn on Venmo.com.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening to episode 14 of Mike Dicta. Thank you to the panel, the Hell Dude, and James, and Robyn, and Andy. I am your host, Charles Starr. Thank you, and goodbye.
Bye, guys.
Favorite actor, Dennehy. Favorite drink, Old Doles. Bears, Hawks, Sox, Bulls. Say goodbye a little longer like I ate a piece of Big Red. Grew a mustache the size of Mike Dicta's forehead. Hair comb to the side, looking like a piece of foam. Buick speakers, red cooler, 85 Bear Zubas, Polish sausage, bratwurst. Walking like my cockers. Stacey Adams, no shirt. Jules to get a case of squirt. Wife's pissed cause I forgot to get the minute rice. So I'm back in the damn Buick to get a stinking bag of ice. To get a stinking bag of rice. My wife Jules is cute. Her taste really moved me like I ate juicy fruit. Had me dancing like Chris Penn and Footloose. 85 Walter Ruse, old style pack of coos. Go to Ace, no tools and weed whacker fuel. 85 Bear Zubas, Stacey Adams got ruined. For the basement sump pump, shop vac, clean up. Cook brats, cook chops, your heat shouldn't be that hot. Keep your juices in the chops, keep your juices in the brats. Serve them on paper plates, tater salad and grape pop. My favorite actor was Dennehy long before he played Knight. When Behringer was a substitute, everything was going right. Even after Jordan left, and Dave Corzine retired. Sean Dunstan's wild throws and Mike Dicta got fired. Favorite actor, Dennehy. Favorite drink, Old Doles. Bears, Hawks, Sox, Bulls. Play softball with the guys. Wife made curly fries. Drank about 4 doles. Grounded out 2 pop flies. In the Buick down Western. Stop and get some more brats. On sale chicken, Italian sausages, orange pop. This week fishing trip. Gotta get some new flies. Wife packed turkey subs, Jay's chips and peach pies. Watch a little Dennehy. Pull out the laser disc. Sniper 1, 2, and 3. Behringer makes great flicks. Listen to the shuffle. Rewind Richard Dick's part. Damn, I left those orange pops in the trunk of the Skylark. Sneak a couple Old Doles. Shit, there's my damn wife. You know, honey, I'll be back. I gotta get some more ice. Back in the damn Buick. I should go to the damn bar. I saw Dicta once in the Eatons in a sports car. Favorite actor, Dennehy. Favorite drink, Old Doles. Bears, Hawks, Sox, Bulls. Play a little poker. Spend time with the wife. Take her out to Bennigan's. See if they cook chops right. Go and get a laser disc. Projection screen TV. Portillo's Italian beef and a movie starring Tommy B. Back in the damn Buick. Cut on WCKG. Caught a song by Glenn Fry and an interview with Dennehy. So I'm driving down Western Ave. Think I'm gonna stop at Zayre's. Got a splitting freaking headache, so I popped a couple bears. So I'm back in the damn Buick. Think I need an oil check. The baddest of George Thorogood smoke stoves on my deck. Read the sports section. Bears and their O-line. Trying to find a decent Fiero with a for sale sign. Cut on WCKG. Huey Lewis and the news. The heart of rock and roll is still beating. Bears blues. Favorite actor, Dennehy. Favorite drink, Old Doles. Bears, Hawks, Sox, Bulls. Favorite day, Sunday. Favorite team, the Bears. Favorite store, Ventures, Sayers. Favorite show, Danza. Also the news. Weatherman, Skilling. Music, the blues. Favorite actor, Dennehy. Favorite drink, Old Doles. Bears, Hawks, Sox, Bulls. If I was coach of the Bears, we'd at least get 10 wins. 10 wins, Dennehy on the O-line, Behringer at tight end. Behringer, favorite actor, Dennehy. Favorite drink, Old Doles. Bears, Hawks, Sox, Bulls. Favorite actor, Farina, dandruff, tons, brats, chops, dogs, they're done. Bears, Hawks, Sox, Bulls. Favorite actor, Farina, dandruff, tons, brats, chops, dogs, they're done. Favorite coach, Dicta, vacation place, Wisconsin, sausage, Johnson, chicken, Swanson's, other actor, Behringer, linebacker, Buckus, chopped, peppers, tomatoes, onions, favorite Mayor Daley, cigarettes, Coles, Stanley, makes great goals, favorite Judge Mathis, favorite drink, Old Doles, Hawks, Cubs, Bears, Bull, favorite Tower Sears, favorite song to shuffle, J's, Fritos, Doritos, Ruffles,